Griffin Grand Prix of San Marino. Can Ducati and Pecco Bagnaia make history with a fourth consecutive win in 2022? It's time to race in MotoGP. So the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli, the 28th time we've raced here at this great circuit, nestled on Italy's Adriatic coast. There's been the Nations GP, the San Marino GP, the Italian Grand Prix and the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix taking place here down the years. Tight and twisty in layout, 4.226 kilometres. Pecco Bagnaia has the best race lap with a 1:32.171. Does history beckon today for the Italian? This was the great showdown last year in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix at turn 14. And now Bastianini coming from 16th to 3rd at turn 14, and a race that Fabio Quartararo was crowned world champion. Coming up next in MotoGP, it was thriller Jack Miller in Q2 as the Aussie gets set to start from pole for the first time since Argentina 2018. Andrea Bastianini's famed late race pace could be pivotal with the homegrown hero on the front row in second. Pecco Bagnaia's bid for a Ducati milestone in Misano starts from 5th with a 4th consecutive win within reach. And he's down on row 3 in 8th position, but don't discount the speed of world champion Fabio Quartararo from salvaging a big points haul in Misano. Welcome back then to San Marino, ahead of the 14th round of the 2022 MotoGP World Championship. Coming up in about 33 minutes or so's time here at the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli, we have the 14th chapter in this year's World Championship scrap, a championship that's led by reigning world champion Fabio Quartararo, 32 points clear of Aprilia's Aleix Espargaro, with the informed Pecco Bagnaia trying to reel in some of that 44-point deficit he has on Quartararo at the top of the championship. And all Ducati front row here in Ducati's backyard in Misano, with Jack Miller starting from pole position for the first time in 4 years. Andrea Bastianini, born and bred just a stone's throw away from the circuit in Rimini, he goes from second, with Marco Bezzecchi promoted to the front row after the penalty for Pecco Bagnaia. He qualified second but will start in 5th place. It's another Ducati top heavy grid with 5 bikes rather inside the top 6, and this will be an emotional occasion of course here today on the Adriatic coast, ahead of the Griffin Grand Prix of San Marino, with Andrea Dovizioso retiring from Grand Prix motorcycle racing immediately after his home Grand Prix. But this is the man we're all focusing on. History beckons for 25-year-old Italian Pecco Bagnaia, as we mentioned, trying to be the first Ducati rider in history to win 4 races in a row. He shares that accolade with 3 wins on the spin with Casey Stone, who did it in Donington, Assen and the Sachsenring back in 2008. And a great chance really to claw back some of the gap to Aleix Espargaro and this man Fabio Quartararo ahead of him. Quartararo goes from 8th, Aleix Espargaro in 9th. Happy memories of course here in Misano for this young man. It was right here in the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix 11 months ago he was crowned 2021 MotoGP World Champion. This one all set up to be a bit of a spicy affair, Lewis. Looking forward to this because it's hard to predict. So many different riders have shown great race pace. You look at Bagnaia and Bastianini, you look like they're going to be potentially the strongest of the Ducatis. Jack Miller, those look great in terms of race pace all this weekend, and you can never discount this man charging through from the middle of that 3rd row.
High excitement ahead of the San Marino Grand Prix. It's got a bit of a similar feeling for me than we had on the morning of race day at the British Grand Prix at the start of August, with the championship contenders out of position, relatively speaking, to what we normally see from them. None of them are on the front row of the grid. Aleix Espargaro here on screen starts from the back of row 3, just 1 position behind the series leader Fabio Quartararo. And Pecco Bagnaia, despite qualifying second yesterday afternoon, he will go from the middle of the 2nd row in 5th. The reason for that, if you're joining us for the first time this weekend, is he was guilty of impeding irresponsible riding. He impeded Alex Marquez in free practice 1, and he's been given a 3-place grid penalty, which means that rather than starting second next to his teammate, he starts 5th. But it is Thriller Miller who will start from pole position here this afternoon.
A 1:31.899 gave Jack Miller his first pole position since that dramatic lap at the Terma 3 Hondo circuit in Argentina 4 years ago. Jack Miller being asked if he'll swap gloves again at the end of this Grand Prix. Here is Andrea Dovizioso then, many people's pre-race favourite going into this Grand Prix. As we mentioned, he was born so close to this Misano circuit in nearby Rimini, and he's had some home comfort here in the past. He adores, he loves this Misano circuit. His last 4 visits here in Moto2 and in MotoGP, he's been on the podium on each occasion, and he's sporting a beautiful, gorgeous, one-off livery in tribute to his late team owner, Fausto Gresini. There it is on your screens right now. Absolutely loving that. What a tribute to the late Fausto Gresini. It's the same livery that Fausto used to win the 1987 125cc World Championship on the Gorelli bike. What a beautiful touch that is from the Beast and the Gresini team. Of course, the Gresini team, they're also based very, very close to this Misano circuit. It would be another emotional victory if the Beast gets the job done over 27 laps.
He's been on the podium the last 4 times he's raced here across MotoGP. Of course, 2 podiums from very deep on the grid last year and a couple in his Moto2 title-winning season of 2020. But as you can see, that's not the only special livery on the grid here today. The striking colours of the Muni VR46 team, and they will be gracing the front row of the grid for the 2nd time this season. Marco Bezzecchi starts from the front row, promoted up from 4th, of course, with Pecco Bagnaio's penalty. But that beautiful livery that you can see there on the number 72 of Marco Bezzecchi, for the 2nd year in a row here in Misano. Of course, it was the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix last year where VR46 had a rider on the front row of the grid, courtesy of Luca Marini. But it's the turn of Marco Bezzecchi today, and as we've seen earlier this season, particularly at Assen, he's not out of place at the front of the field in MotoGP.
Top 10s in the last 3 Grand Prix for the number 72. He's not lacking support here as well, is he, on home tour? Is that the 23-year-old Italian, 2nd in both Moto2 races here a couple of years ago in 2020, was that Marco Bezzecchi. He goes on that old Ducati front row. It was an old Ducati front row, wasn't it, last time out at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg. This man's had to try and brush aside some disappointment. It was confirmed in the build-up to this Misano Grand Prix that Jorge Martin has lost that important race off track to win the seat alongside Pecco Bagnaia in the Ducati Lenovo team next year. There'll be an unchanged lineup in Prima Pramac Racing. Johan Zarco and Jorge Martin staying put next season. Zarco goes from the back of row 2 in 6th place. Jorge Martin had a bit of a luckless Saturday. Missed out on a place directly into Q2 after late yellow flags in FP3 when he was inside the top 10. And then the rain falling just at the wrong time for him in Q1 yesterday. So Martin will start from 13th place on the grid. Here is Andrea Dovizioso then. A special day for him. This is the last time he'll get that special feeling, those butterflies inside the stomach. The 36-year-old Italian in what will be his last and 346 Grand Prix start, the 248th of his Grand Prix career. What a servant he's been to the World Championship since he made his debut in Mugello as a wildcard back in 2001. The 2004 125cc World Champion, star of some great battles, unforgettable battles with Marc Marquez in Qatar, in Motegi, in the Red Bull Ring in 2017, 2018, 2019. 3 times, of course, a runner-up in the MotoGP World Championship. And all we can say, really, after his great career is grazie Dovi. Let's hope it's a successful conclusion for the With You Yamaha R&F man. Andrea Dovizioso's farewell, an emotional farewell to MotoGP, will start from 18th place.
We wish Andrea Dovizioso well here this afternoon. You saw Luca Marini a moment ago. He starts from the front of row 3. As mentioned, he has been on the front row in MotoGP here in the past, building on the best ever result of his MotoGP career 2 weeks ago in Austria when he came through to finish 4th in that Grand Prix, despite starting all the way back in 13th on the grid. So he's certainly in a much better position today. Alex Rins for Suzuki, of course, starting 12th on the grid. He doesn't have his regular teammate here, though, this weekend, Joan Mir. If you haven't been joining us earlier in the weekend, Joan Mir, unfortunately, the injury, the nasty injury he suffered with the ankle damage that he suffered in that first lap high side in the Austrian Grand Prix. He is not here this weekend. He's replaced by Kazuki Watanabe at Suzuki.
This was the moment then that cost Pecco Bagnaia 3 places on the grid at the end of qualifying yesterday. This was right at the end of FP1 on Friday. He thought he'd taken the checkered flag, cruising in the middle of the circuit. Alex Marquez still on a hot lap on the LCR Honda, took evasive action. To his credit, Pecco Bagnaia did hold his hands up and say, yeah, I was totally in the wrong. It was a genuine mistake, no intent whatsoever. Fully apologised to Alex Marquez, the LCR Honda team, and to the FIM stewards. He said, crucially, wasn't going into qualifying yesterday. He had to be on that front row, knowing that the worst place he would be was somewhere on that second row. And he got the job done. He was only just over 100th of a second away from pole, actually, behind Jack Miller then, as the riders head out on the sighting lap. Hottest conditions really of the weekend so far. It'll be interesting to see where we're at in terms of the Michelin tyre selection. Piero Taramasso this morning was talking to Simon Crafar and saying it looked like the majority pick was going to be the hard front, medium rear. We've actually just got a provisional Michelin tyre selection sheet, and as we expected it, everybody has gone for the hard front, bar Joan Mir's Suzuki replacement, Kazuki Watanabe. He's gone for the medium front tyre, and not a lot of deviation on the rear tyre as well. Here we're looking at the tyre graphic now, the tyre location. Hard, medium, soft rear tyres, asymmetric in configuration. In terms of the rear tyre, everybody's gone for the medium rear, apart from, significantly, Andrea Bastianini on the middle of that front row in second place. His Gresini teammate Fabio Di Gianantonio, Alex Rins on the factory Suzuki, and Franco Morbidelli on the Monster Energy Yamaha. So Andrea Bastianini, the only man on those first 2 rows of the grid, first 3 rows of the grid really, that's gone for the slightly softer rear tyre.
Yeah, well, that's the tyre selection that they've gone to the grid on. Of course, if there are any changes to that, we will update you to as soon as we have it. We have seen Andrea Bastianini in the past change tyre selections on the grid. These are the hottest conditions of the weekend here in San Marino. Of course, earlier on in the weekend, we were expecting potentially wet conditions for race day here at Misano. The forecast when we arrived here on Wednesday looked pretty dreadful for race day. We did have a huge downpour, a massive thunderstorm here on Thursday afternoon, and of course a bit of rain that interfered with qualifying yesterday. But those are your track temperatures in the middle sector of the lap. It was touching 47 degrees of track temperature. Those not kind of temperatures or conditions that we've been used to at all through this Grand Prix weekend so far.
A great crowd here in Misano. Just under 57,000 fans have come through the grandstands to see if they can see a bit of Italian motorcycling history made by both Pecco Bagnaia and Ducati. One man who looks more than capable of potentially gate crashing the party is that man on your screens right now, Maverick Vinales, talking up his prospects of a first win for Aprilia. Big time yesterday, wasn't he, Vinales? Absolutely no doubt in his mind, he said. He has got the potential and, more importantly, the speed to win here today. He starts from 4th place. What can he do about that gaggle of Ducatis surrounding the Spaniard?
Yeah, plenty in that grandstand will be cheering Maverick on, and of course his teammate and captain Aleix Espargaro, desperate to give Aprilia a home victory here at Misano, but an awful lot of work to do for him from 9th on the grid. Just didn't have the confidence ultimately in the slightly sketchy conditions of qualifying yesterday, with rain falling, particularly reluctant to touch the white lines and the curbs yesterday in qualifying, so he didn't quite push the boat out as much as many others in qualifying, and as a result of that, Aleix Espargaro goes from the back of row 3, but crucially for him, he's alongside his title rival Fabio Quartararo.
So what are the tactics of Andrea Bastianini then, going for that soft Michelin rear tyre? Is he going to try and make the start, make the whole shot? Of course he is, but is the plan then, if he does so, to try and then use the extra grip of that soft tyre early on to maybe just open a little bit of a gap and then manage the Grand Prix thereon after? Because we know if there's one guy who's superb, unrivaled really in many respects in terms of rear tyre management over the second half of Grand Prix, it has been Andrea Bastianini. You would think it's a little bit of a punt to go for the soft rear in the hottest conditions of the weekend so far, but he obviously trusts himself. It would have been a decision he took with his crew chief Alberto Girabiola and with Michelin. Of course, we'll see whether that decision pays big dividends for the beast as he goes for a 4th win in 2022.
He's certainly going to have that good initial grip in the early stages of the Grand Prix, if that is indeed the tyre choice that he settles on by the time he leaves the grid at the start of the warm-up lap. But it's not a race that we're necessarily expecting to see too much tyre conservation. The riders have noticed throughout the weekend that they've been able to push right throughout the stint on these tyres and still set very fast lap times towards the end. We've seen personal best riders, particularly go back to free practice 4 yesterday, personal best right at the very end of the session. We'll quickly run you through the grid before we head down to Simon Crafar in just a moment. It's Miller, Bastianini and Bezzecchi on the front row, from Viñales, Bagnaia and Zarco. Bagnaia, of course, with that 3-place grid penalty. Marini, Quartararo and Aleix Espargaro together on row 3. Quartararo and Aleix Espargaro, of course, will be looking to maximise their championship points today. Oliveira, who of course was one of the few riders to go from slicks from the start of Q2, he was rewarded with 10th ahead of Frankie Morbidelli, his best qualifying of the season, and Alex Rins in 12th position. Jorge Martin, Fabio Di Gianantonio and Brad Binder together on row 5 ahead of Alex Marquez, Michele Pirro, who's wildcarding on an Aruba.it Ducati, and Andrea Dovizioso for the final time in MotoGP goes from 18th. Paul Espargaro's had a rotten weekend and he's down in P19 just ahead of his teammate for now, Stefan Bradl. Will Marc Marquez be back on that bike when we speak to you again at Aragon? Darren Binder in 21st ahead of Taka Nakagami and Kazuki Watanabe, with Remy Gardner and Ralph Fernandez for Tech 3 bringing up the rear.
And speaking of Kazuki Watanabe, great to see him get a chance to make his MotoGP debut here, replacing the injured Joao Mir. I'm delighted to say on the grid with the 31-year-old Japanese man. It's Simon, over to you guys.
Kazuki-san, how does it feel sitting on the MotoGP grid on this beautiful blue machine amongst the best riders in the world?
Yeah, it's very excited to be here and you know, about to start. You know, I feel, of course, nervous, but actually I'm quite looking forward to enjoy the race. So yeah, just keep concentrated to the race until the end. Yeah, let's enjoy.
Thank you and ganbatte.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Kazuki Watanabe, currently 3rd in the All Japan Superbike Championships, 3rd recently in the famous Suzuka 8-hour endurance race. And now Bastianini has just been introduced to the crowd, and that's why the flags are waving. That's why there was a big roar for that young man. He was born and bred right in this part of Italy, the sort of famous Adriatic coastline, a holiday hotspot, not just in Italy but in Europe as well. The beach locations of Cattolica, Riccione, Rimini, always great to come to this part of the world because we always get great race action, great food, great booze as well. We're looking forward to a big party for Andrea Dovizioso tonight. The perfect time to go down on the grid ahead of what's going to be an emotional race day here for the With You at Yamaha R&F team. Wilco Zillingberg, their team manager, ahead of Andrea Dovizioso's MotoGP farewell. Down to you, Simon.
Yeah, I was so hoping to talk to Dovi today, but he doesn't like to talk on the grid. So next best thing, an ex-rider, team manager, worked with him. I'd love to hear what's it like working with Dovi and on his last race.
Well, Simon, you know, we have been both there as our last race, and I think Dovi is enjoying it a lot at the moment. Yes, not the attention, but anyway, the career he had, the respect actually that he gets from the whole grid. Everybody is, every MotoGP bike at the moment, they have Grazie Dovi. And I think that says everything, you know, that he has a lot of competitors and rivals, but no enemies. And yeah, to work with him as a person has been fantastic, because we did the worst season in MotoGP with him and also for him. But he still behaved like a gentleman, you know, and that says everything.
Before I let you go, can you give us a few words on Darren?
Yeah, we are happy with Darren's progress. Of course, we decided to have other rider for next year, but yeah, saying that, we also really feel heart pain, you know, because I think he also deserved another chance. And but saying that, you know, you need to make a decision at some stage. And but we will support him the coming races full time, and we hope he will come back soon in MotoGP.
Great stuff, Wilco. Good luck today.
Thank you.
Thanks to Wilco Zinimo, thanks to Simon Craig. Of course, the current Yamaha R&F team will be moving over to Aprilia's in 2023, and it will feature the perfect timing on one of those RSGPs next season. This man, Miguel Oliveira, 10th on the factory KTM, joined in that project next year by another current KTM rider, Raul Fernandez.
We spoke moments ago of the misfortune for Jorge Martin, missing out on a place in the top 10 in free practice 3. His loss was very much Miguel Oliveira's gain. It promoted him into the top 10, and at one stage it looked as if he was going to be on for a little bit more than that yesterday, than 10th on the grid when he was quick at the start of qualifying, going out on slicks early on. Let's get the word from KTM then ahead of this San Marino Grand Prix. Stefan Pirro is down on the grid with Simon.
No, Michele Pirro, but never mind Michele. Speaking to your crew chief, he said you are a big part of Ducati's success, you know, being the test rider. How does it feel to line up on the grid for a race now?
So it's strange because many rider, no? It's compare when I'm test the bike because I'm test alone. But anyway, I'm enjoyed today, and the level of Ducati is very high. The young rider is fast, and I hope and a good race also for me. Anyway, I try my best.
Michele, you're a legend. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks to Michele Pirro, thanks to Simon Crafar. That was a sight to warm hearts of Repsol Honda fans and to MotoGP fans all around the world. We just saw there talking to former MotoGP rider Alex Hoffman, part of the Service TV operation, Marc Marquez, who after that 4th operation on that right humerus bone in Minnesota back in early June has been past fit, and he will be throwing his leg over that Repsol Honda RC213V at the 2-day test here in Misano next week. It kind of every time he comes to Misano, you feel like he's operating behind enemy lines, don't you? Marc Marquez, of course, he was the last race winner here in Misano when he won after this man, Jack Miller, and Pecco Bagnaia both crashed out in front of him in that title-deciding Emilia-Romagna race here last October.
Yeah, of course, MotoGP.com and MotoGP social media channels will have all the updates on Marc Marquez's progress in that 2-day test here at Misano, Tuesday and Wednesday. So keep an eye on all of our social media channels to see how he gets on. It will be so good to see Marc Marquez back in MotoGP, and boy do Repsol Honda want him back. And we're glad to say, unmistakably, we can now hear from Marc Marquez. He's on the grid and he's talking to Simon Crafar.
He is. Marc, can you tell us what's going through your mind on the grid without all the stress?
Yeah, obviously I'm more nervous now than when I'm in the bike. It's strange, but I feel like I want to be there. And it's true that I need to be step by step. I will have important tests to myself and also for Honda on Tuesday, Wednesday. At the moment, Tuesday. Wednesday we will see if the body accepts. But yeah, it's a different point of view now looking from outside, but I hope to be very soon in the grid.
See you next week.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Marc Marquez then building up to what would be a mouth-watering return in his home Grand Prix, Motorland Aragon, in a couple of weeks' time. We're in the Principality of San Marino then. Always fantastic, as we mentioned, to be racing in this part of the world. Such a great area for developing talent, isn't it? That's made it all the way through to the world stage. I don't know what they put in the water in these parts, but Valentino Rossi, of course, born and bred here. Enea Bastianini, Andrea Dovizioso, not too far away from here, Marco Simoncelli, Luca Marini, Manuel Poggiali, the list goes on. It's such a star-studded list of riders who've carved their way through from the grassroots to the elite of World Championship motorcycle racing. Luca Marini, he'll fancy a chance at maybe fighting with a podium here today. He goes from the head of that 3rd row in 7th place. Fabio Quartararo on the middle of the 3rd row in 8th spot. Hard work coming through from that 3rd row, but what can you do? You can always rely on the world champion to put in a top performance. Let's see the pre-race thoughts of Monster Energy Yamaha boss Maio Meregali.
Maio, qualifying didn't completely go to plan. Do you think he can fight through to the front?
Yeah, it will depend about the start. If we can gain a couple of positions at the beginning, I think he has the potential to do a good race. This morning we could improve a little bit the setups, and he was happy, especially in T11, the fast corner, where yesterday we were suffering a bit for the most. He was satisfied. He did a really good warm-up with a really used rear tire. Here the tire doesn't drop so much, and in any case they have to be able to manage. I think most of them choose the same solution, hard and medium. Pace-wise, is very close to each other, so they have to be brave and be ready every time there is an opportunity to try to overtake.
Thank you, Mayo, and good luck.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Marino GP. Fabio Quartararo's worst qualifying position since the opening round, when he was 11th on the grid in Qatar under the Losail International Circuit floodlights. He only fought his way back through to 9th place on that occasion, but he does have that cushion, that buffer of 32 points over Aleix Espargaro going into this 14th round of this year's World Championship. In a long, long time since the Yamaha rider has successfully defended a Premier Class title. Got to be Valentino Rossi, hasn't it, back in 2008, 2009. That's the glory beckoning for this young man, the 23-year-old from Nice in France, as we build up to the final 10 minutes or so, build up before this 27-lap gripping Grand Prix of San Marino very, very shortly. We'll pause for both the San Marino and the Italian national anthems as part of the now traditional pre-race grid ceremony, where we'll not only see the race-winning trophy up for grabs here today, but also the MotoGP World Champions Trophy. Plenty of support here for Yamaha. There you can just see there, what a shot that is. Andrea Dovizioso just behind him was Marc Marquez. Talk about some epic showdowns that those two had in their Grand Prix career. I think their battles in Qatar in 2018, 2019 are still inside 2 of the top 10 closest finishes in history. So thanks then to Giulio Macaroni Ensemble for their brilliant alternative rendition of the San Marino and Italian national anthems. That's got the fans stoked and ready for action. We're certainly full of anticipation, excitement here in the commentary box. Andrea Dovizioso there on the grid ahead of his farewell appearance. What a lovely shot that is. A warm embrace then between 2 of the greatest riders in the modern MotoGP era. And as we said, they treated us to some of the greatest edge-of-the-seat action we've seen in the modern 4-stroke era. What a day beckons for Ducati. Can they make it 4 wins in a row for the first time in their history? Let's hear the pre-race thoughts of Ducati Lenovo team manager Davide Tardozzi with Simon.
As Davide runs away, Davide, there's a few famous people pulling him away. Davide, we're live here.
Sorry.
No problem. Your home race, your team's home race, Ducati's home race. You're an ex-rider. Tell us what's going through your mind about your 2 riders.
We just ask to be fair, to make no stupid things, and to make them race. Everybody in Ducati is free to do his own race. We just ask to be not too hard with the neighbor, with other Ducatis. But anyway, they are free to do them race.
You know the nitty-gritty. How fast are your boys, meaning Jack and Pecco, their pace for the race?
Yeah, I think that both together with Bastianini will have a very good and fast race pace, but Fabio and the Aprilias will be there too. So I think that we will see a first part of the race with a lot of riders and very tight, but only 3-4 riders will be there to play for the podium in the end.
Thank you, Davide.
Thank you.
Thanks to Davide Tardozzi. He'll be desperately hoping that one of those 3 or 4 riders playing at the end of this Grand Prix is Pecco Bagnaia in terms of the championship. Some key late breaking news regarding Michelin tyres. As Lewis mentioned, we thought maybe there might be some late change of heart given the hottest condition of the weekend so far, and now everybody that was planning to start on that soft rear, Morbidelli, Rins, De Gianantonio and crucially Enea Bastianini on that front row in second, they have all switched over to the medium rear tyre.
So unless we hear of any more changes, every rider, with the exception of Kazuki Watanabe, has gone for a medium front tyre. Everyone's on the same combination, which is the hard front, medium rear, which is what we thought going into the race, and what we saw from free practice 4 is the preferred combination. As mentioned a few moments ago, it's not expected to be a big race of tyre management, given that they were still setting fast lap times and overall best lap times in FP4 right at the end of their stints. The big question, I suppose, is whether these hotter temperatures have changed the complexion of that ever so slightly.
Some of the most nervy moments of a Grand Prix weekend unfolding right in front of your very eyes now, as the mechanics, team managers, team members all give their sort of pre-race prep talks to their riders. There is Marco Bezzecchi then on the front row on that special liveried Muni VR46 Ducati. Alongside him, Enea Bastianini looking for a 4th win in 2022. This would be a special one after his brilliant triumphs in Qatar, in Austin and in Le Mans. This one would be extra special in his own backyard, in the backyard of the Gresini team. He's also running a gorgeous, absolutely stunning tribute livery to his late team boss Fausto Gresini. The Italian fans are out in force then. Just under 60,000, as we mentioned. There's a lot of support still in this part of the world, as you'd expect for number 46, Valentino Rossi. He'd love to be here. He's in 4-wheel racing competition over in Hockenheim. Can his boys deliver on the big stage in front of their home crowd? The pressure cooker atmosphere building. What's going through the mind of Andrea Dovizioso ahead of his farewell Grand Prix? But your front row here for the Griffin Grand Prix of San Marino. Marco Bezzecchi in 3rd place. Enea Bastianini trying to make it 4 wins in 2022. He starts second, and for the first time in 4 long years, after his memorable